Hey, what's up guys? So the question for this video is, why the heck did I just move to Dumaguete? Of all the places in the Philippines that I've been to and I've checked out or I've heard about, why did I choose Dumaguete? I've been in Canada for the last month and a half. I've done a lot of reflecting on my time in the Philippines, over a year and a half, boots on the ground. And I knew when I came back here, I wanted to have more of a plan, more of a focus. And if you've been following this channel, I've talked a lot about my desire to get a setup, more of a permanent home base, routine, all of those things that I realized I needed in my life because I had been traveling around so much, living out of my backpack, in and out of hotels and little Airbnb studios. So I chose the Dumaguete area, and now that I'm back, I see things totally differently. And I'm gonna tell you honestly, the good, the bad, and everything in between, in my opinion, and why I think this area really is not the right fit for everybody, but why I think it's the perfect fit for me and why I think it could be the perfect fit for you too. And rather than looking at my mug the whole time, I'm gonna show you footage of the Dumaguete area, including Valencia and some surrounding towns. Let's get into it. So the first thing I wanted to do after getting here was to start looking for a place that I can see myself staying longer term. And what I've realized right away, this is not the easiest place to find that ideal setup, that perfect place, for a number of reasons. I think there's low inventory, although they're building constantly. They know there's high demand for rentals here, so you see construction everywhere, building small little houses up to big houses, apartment buildings, things like that. The other thing is there are other people looking, so when something good pops up, it gets snatched pretty quick. That is definitely a thing here. This area is trending upwards in popularity, not just for foreigners, like for Filipinos. People are coming to this area. The lifestyle is good. There's job opportunities here. So the demand is pretty high here. The other reason why it's hard to find that ideal setup, things that are on the market aren't always gonna be the right fit. They're not always gonna look like the kind of place you can see yourself in. Maybe it's the entryway to the house is a rocky, bumpy road that's sort of tucked away and it's in sort of an odd location. There's a lot of properties that are like that. Maybe it's further away from the conveniences, things you want to be close to. Maybe the area is just a little bit too busy or a little bit too much traffic. Perhaps you go and look at a place and there's way more roosters there than you're hoping and it's a little bit noisier. It could be a number of things, but that's definitely part of it, at least for me. Like, I have a vision of the kind of place that I want to be at, especially when I work out of the house. I want to feel a certain thing when I walk into that place where I can see myself being there quite a bit. And last thing to mention with this, Dumaguete is not Cebu City. It's not Manila. It's not a big city that has a bunch of nice condos with amenities. And a lot of foreigners want that. A lot of foreigners want those comforts. They want the amenities. You're not going to get that here. There's one condo complex that's similar to that in the north end of town. There might be others, and maybe some things are in the works. But right now, those really aren't options. So that really impacts your house hunting and your options that are here in the Dumaguete area. Now, because of this, I've heard a lot of guys come here and just sign whatever they can right away. So they jump on whatever's available, even if it's not the ideal setup. I encourage you to think twice on doing this. I have a different approach. Basically what I'm doing right now is there are some decent short-term options here. Of course you have Airbnb, there's hotels. It's not ideal because of course it's more expensive to go that route. But if you're going to stay here long-term, I think it's a good idea to be in at least a month-to-month type of setup to where you can pounce on something that comes up when the perfect place comes up that you're going to feel comfortable signing that long-term lease with. Right now I'm staying in an Airbnb just close to downtown, and yesterday I found a place. It's perfect, it's month to month. I might extend it longer term, but if I want to, if the right thing comes around, I can pounce on it. Because it's month to month, it is more expensive, and that's something that you're going to have to consider, but that is the workaround to coming here and not having those perfect options right away. And just to clarify and give you a rough idea, the difference between finding a place where you sign a longer term lease or going month to month could be the difference of about $200 US per month. Might even be a little bit more. And with the longer term options, there is the possibility for a much better setup, like a better place for you. It's just finding it and being patient to wait for it to come available. Quick story about my friend Jerry, who moved here when he was 81 years old. He's 82 now, and he came straight to Dumaguete. He moved here. He didn't come for a discovery trip. He was like, I'm 81. I gotta just go for it and see what happens. Well, he came to Dumaguete, was familiar with it from watching YouTube videos and things like that. But what happened was, for him, he realized how difficult it was to find the right place for him, that right fit. Kind of like what I was talking about. He ended up getting into a place and it just wasn't ideal. It wasn't ideal for a guy who's 81, that doesn't want tripping hazards, that doesn't want the traffic right there, and a number of other reasons. And he ended up moving to Mactan, Newtown, next to Cebu City, and he got everything he needed. It was walkable, it was modern, new, clean, no potholes, all the amenities. That was the right fit for a guy like Jerry. And that kind of option, it's just not available in Dumaguete. If you've never been here and you're not quite sure, the downtown core of Dumaguete, it's quite busy. It can get quite congested, especially during rush hour. Like, I'm talking crazy congested. Scooters, motorcycles, tricycles, different types of utility vehicles, all merging and, going in every direction in the downtown core. So that alone is a reason to think twice if it's going to be a good fit for you if you're in the proximity of the downtown core. Now, there's restaurants, there's city things that people do love. Of course, you have the boulevard and the waterfront, and there's cool things about downtown Dumaguete. Just know what you're getting into. You might like it, but you might not like it. After I got, I guess, my fill of downtown, like main Dumaguete proper, I don't really want that anymore. And for me, it's all about getting away from that. Like a town like Valencia, which is only like 25 minutes away, it's pretty ideal. It's quaint, it's way more quiet and peaceful. It still has restaurants, it still has cool coffee shops. It's got a really good fitness center close by. I love it. I love it. And if you have to go into Dumaguete, if you want to go down to the boulevard or whatever, you just roll down the hill and you just know you might be entering that chaos of traffic, but it's part of the deal. Okay, so with all of this said, this is a big reason why the Dumaguete area may or may not be a good fit for you, and it wasn't ideal for Jerry. You don't have taxis here, there's no Grab here, so if you want to get around, the main mode of transportation is hopping in a tricycle. But ideal, and what most people do here, is they have their own scooter. Some have cars, but most ride a scooter. And that gives you the freedom to get around, to go where you want to go. It's not to say that you can't enjoy this area without having your own mode of transportation, but I can tell you this, for me, that's what makes it so great here. The number of places that you can go to, I can hop on my scooter and go and just really, really enjoy my time. The other thing is, probably the biggest aspect of why I like this area is the backyard of Dumaguete or Valencia or wherever you're living, especially Valencia because it's even closer, is there's amazing nature in this area. If you're into hiking, if you want to check out waterfalls, if you want to go to a hot spring, if you want to roll over to Darwin, which is about 30 minutes down the road from Dumaguete, and go snorkeling at Uzi's Beach, you can do that here. The variety of outdoor things to do, it's incredible here. There's a place up in the mountains called, I might be butchering the name, Bulsai Highland Brew Coffee. You take a ride, it's just in the middle of nowhere, but it's got this incredible view of the ocean, Apo Island. You can see Siquijor off to the distance. Just to go up there for a coffee and maybe eat some baked goods. And there's other places like this too. There's lots of gems. There's lots of unique spots, but you need a scooter or a motorcycle or your own car to really appreciate this kind of stuff. Oh, and one more thing I want to mention about the area. You have easy access to Apo Island, which you can do in a day trip, take a boat out, some of the best snorkeling, swim with turtles, beautiful little spot. You have Siquijor, which is a short ferry ride away if you want to just have a little vacation. There's beautiful beaches over there, there's more waterfalls. It can just be your little vacay spot to get away from living in Dumaguete. All right, last few things I want to talk about is dining and food options and healthcare. So I've been pretty open on my channel about how for me, the food options in the Philippines is hit or miss. It depends on where you are in the Philippines. If you're right in a big city, you have access to a lot of different cuisines, different restaurants and whatever. If you're out in the province, you might be limited and you might not love the food options. And that was the case for me. So I knew when I came back here, I wanted to live somewhere where if I was going to be out and about, I wanted to have some decent options. I am finding that the longer I stay here and the more places that I explore, the better it is, and the more impressed I am with the food options in the Dumaguete area. Not just Dumaguete, but also Valencia and Bacong and Darwin. There's really good restaurants here. The more you explore and try different places, I am psyched about this aspect because food to me is really important. Or even like coffee or other things, there's lots of good options for a variety of things here. Okay, healthcare. This is a biggie, and I can only speak to some of this, but I want to bring some things up for you to consider. So when it comes to just like maintenance and fitness, this was another really important thing for me to find a setup where I'm going to have access to a good fitness center. There's a couple of good places downtown. There's a place really close to Valencia, not an issue. But the bigger thing is like hospitals and if you need more serious medical, and this really depends. So using Jerry as an example again, one of the other huge aspects for him being in a big city is to have quick access to some of the best hospitals in the Philippines. He recently had a healthcare scare that required quite a bit of time in a hospital. And even in Lapu-Lapu, when he went to the local hospital there, he had a not so great experience. And it wasn't until he switched over to Changhua Hospital right in Cebu City that has a really good reputation. It wasn't until then that things started to turn around for him and that he started to get the proper care that he needed. If you're in relatively good health, I've heard generally good things about the options here in Dumaguete. You have Silman University Medical Center, there's tons of clinics, there's tons of dentists. For any of you guys watching, if you live here or if you used to live here and you have experience with the healthcare here and the hospitals and clinics, please leave a comment. Like anything that you can add to this for other guys that are watching it, so they have a better idea of overall what it's like and what they'd be getting into if they moved here. So that's the gist of it, and that's something to really look into. I think it's important for you to feel confident and comfortable with where you're living when it comes to healthcare. And there's no arguing that if you are in Cebu City or Manila or a big city in the Philippines, you're going to have access to better care. So that's just something that you have to consider. But the overall lifestyle here is pretty healthy. It's healthy-minded. There's healthy food options. Lots of people are out walking. I see people out biking. People are walking and jogging on the boulevard, hiking up in the mountains if that's your thing. So overall, it is a healthy-minded type of place. And I think if you're into that, this area is going to be a good fit for you. That's important for me. And that's another reason I love this area. Oh, before I end it, how could I forget? Another huge draw for me for coming to this area is I wanted to have easy access to an airport and a ferry port. And being in such a centralized location, it's ideal for that. You can hop on a plane, direct flight to Manila, direct flight to Cebu and other areas in the Philippines. You can ferry over to Cebu City, you can ferry to Bohol. It's really an ideal location for getting around the Philippines, or if you want to boogie out of the Philippines, it's perfect for that. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I appreciate you watching. I hope I shed some light on some of the potential drawbacks of being in this area, but also sharing why I love this area and why I chose this region of the Philippines for my permanent setup and why it might be a good fit for you too. Appreciate you tuning in. More to come soon.